right, left. This seems to be right.
To any authorities concerned, this is to inform you of illegal discharging of oily water from bilge tank, which happened last December 14th and 17th, 2009. The chief engineer instructed as to make a bypass flange to discharge oily water overboard. We are asking help to any authorities concerned about this because we must protect our environment and our marine lives. Sincerely yours, the Engine Department. This is an image that comes from a satellite. It shows a ship, and it shows the path of oil behind that ship. Aerial surveillance shows an oil slick in the wake of a ship. This is side-looking airborne radar. Here's a ship, there's the oil. And lastly, that's oil streaking on the side of the ship, called a comet streak. This is evidence of a crime. The ship is underway, so only some of it sticks to the side of the ship. The rest of that oil is in the ocean. It's with the fish, it's with the seabirds, it's with the turtles, with the dolphins, the whales.
Because water covers so much of the Earth, people have always thought of it as endless. But in fact, anything that gets into the ocean remains there.
The Coast Guard estimates crude oil at the rate of 8,000 barrels a day could be spilling into the open sea.
Now authorities are worried about an environmental catastrophe.
BP Oil, which leases the platform, and the Coast Guard have at least 35 containment vessels dispatched to the area.
More than 11 million gallons of crude oil poured into the sea. Tanker Exxon Valdez bound for California.
Most people, when they think about the environment, they worry about the big accidents and forget that anywhere from a third to half of the oil that's in the ocean didn't come from these accidents. It came from the intentional release of oil by ships.
Oil is toxic to organisms, and it can be toxic in several ways. This is a gross image. You know, when you coat something with oil like that, it's going to die. That's not what we're concerned with. We are concerned with what happens with those lesser concentrations that you can't see may have very big effects on developing organisms. That's the concern that we are faced with. This is a picture of pink salmon embryos that was exposed to a high concentration of oil. And you can see the expansion of this area around the yolk sac. The toxins in oil, as you see here, can cause many of the same kinds of defects in organism as are caused by oftentimes considered to be more serious chemicals like those in PCBs and like dioxins.
What's really becoming clear to scientists is that there is no place in the world now that is pristine, because we are putting in every day toxins and oil and other pollutants into the water. Those are spreading throughout the oceans. So there's no pristine place left anymore. The problem with oil pollution that occurs continuously is that the organisms never have a chance to recover.
The first birds are just starting to, about 1 yard out.
Keep down. Just stay down. Everybody stay down.
The bird just moved back to about 20 yards or so from the catch area.
Larry, some just come very close now.
They're moving in.
Okay, the net's in. 3, 2, 1, fire.
Got the lock.
Then pull the projectile from behind you. Pull the projectile from behind you.
Knot box!
Absolutely, Bob.
We study the red knots because they're a vulnerable species.
Out with the knot.
Their populations have declined dramatically in only 30 years. Is this a knot box? The numbers that used to go through Delaware Bay were over 100,000. And now there's maybe 15,000 to 20,000 going through Delaware Bay, and some people say it's even less than that. Red knots stop in Delaware Bay because it is the largest concentration of breeding horseshoe crabs on the East Coast. With every high tide, the horseshoe crabs come in and breed, lay eggs, and those eggs become available. Whenever the populations of any species decline dramatically, it indicates that there's some problem with the ecosystem. It's our task, really, to figure out why have they declined? In what place are they facing most threats? And what are those threats? This is new. The capture was at 1630. Larry is the bander. So the red knot, although it's a bird that many people have never heard of before, it's an indicator of the health of the ecosystem. They might tell us something about whether the chronic oil that's in the water is causing a problem. They might tell us something about whether the food supply is okay. And ultimately, they tell us whether we need to be worried about the environment that we live in, because we're part of that environment.
But that's light. That's going to put a lot of weight on
100, well, it's almost got to double.
Yeah.
That bird has to almost double before it's going to leave. Now, we've got to find out where that geolocator is. By putting those geolocators on the red knots, we are able to get a record of every place that bird has been in the year since we saw it last. We tagged the bird in Delaware Bay, which is right here. And from here, the bird went up to the Arctic, looked around for a place to breed. That's why it's not only in one place. And then it came back, went around a storm, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego, stopping only once. And then on its way back, it stopped once here and a couple times here to get back to Delaware Bay, where we recaught it. If there was not enough food in Delaware Bay, in all likelihood, the birds would not gain enough weight to be able to successfully reach the Arctic. So they may either perish because they starve, or they may not be able to breed that year. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is considering to move it to an endangered status.
It's a small world out there. If you're dumping on the high seas, if you're dumping in another country's waters, there are ways for us to find out. At the same time, we're prosecuting only the tip of the iceberg, only the tip. The problem is greater than we know, and we know it's a great big problem.
We may think we're the most important link, but in fact, we're only one link in a very large, interconnected ecosystem. If the ecosystems around us that we care about are going to survive in this world, we have to start stopping the things that we can stop. Dumping a little bit of oil in the ocean may not seem like much to them, but when all the ships are dumping a little bit of oil, it adds up. And we need to stop that.
Help us to prosecute these cases, help us to stop this crime, help us to protect the world's oceans.